and this is her wonderful new book. So Shohini, to begin, would you like to just tell everyone a bit about the book, and then we can talk more about its subjects?
Thank you, Swati. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here at the Kalinga Lit Fest, specifically because I'm finally in conversation with Swati Chopra, my wonderful editor who's sort of nurtured this book in a way from 2020. And she's the one who made sure that I applied for the New India Foundation Fellowship. So we are in a hurry. So very, very quick capsule on the book. The day I became a runner, I just wanted to introduce you to the central ideas animating the project, specifically this line which is running through the middle of the cover, Women's History of India Through the Lens of Sport. I guess you can't read from here, but those of you who can draw near, this is what the book's cover looks like. And so it is a book on sport, it is a book on gender, but primarily this is a book of citizenship. And what I try to do is to tell a story of post-independent India through the lives of 9 athletes from the late 1930s to the current moment. I'm going to again give you a slide. Again, those of you who wish to come forward, please do. So I begin in the 1940s with Mary D'Souza. Mary is the vertical picture on the to your left, to the left. She was a double international, ran track, played hockey for India, and was part of the first Indian team, first Indian Olympic team that sent women to the Olympics, first Indian team that sent women to the Olympics. That photograph, the horizontal photograph, is the Indian team marching at the opening ceremony of the 1952 Helsinki Games. And yeah, I have some more pictures. That's the Indian team's outfit, official outfit at the 1952 Games. Sort of a salwar kurta and a sleeveless blazer. So Mary D'Souza is the one in the middle. To her right is Dolly Nazir. To her left is Nilama Ghosh. Dolly Nazir swam, Nilama ran track. And the horizontal photograph is the fourth woman in the Indian team. Aarti Saha remains the youngest Indian at the Olympics ever. She was 11 years and some months. The first Asian woman to swim across the English Channel. But my focus is only on runners, not on sportswomen in general, because I thought running is the most minimal sport. You don't need equipment, you don't need a team, you don't even need to learn how to do it. Of course, you need to train to do it at an elite level, but you don't need to learn how to run in the way that you may need to learn even the rules of table tennis or badminton. But why do a women's history of India through the lens of sport in the first place? Well, because my argument is that sports gives women the legitimacy to cross the threshold from the private sphere of the home into the public sphere. The women's citizenship in the private sphere is unquestioned. In our roles as mothers and wives, we are revered. But it's when we step out into the public sphere that our status as equal citizens becomes a lot less certain. I call this the Lakshman Rekha of citizenship. And sports, I argue, gives you the legitimacy to cross this Lakshman Rekha because it is seen as performing nationalism. Why do I say that? Performing sports and performing nationalism? Because it's a three-tiered argument, but really, we don't have much time. But first tier is the main part of the argument. Sports and nationalism are inextricably related. The high noon of nationalism, turn of the 20th century, is also the time organized sport comes into being. If I were to put a date to this, I would say 1896, the first edition of the modern Olympics. But there are some other dates. 1904, FIFA, the World Football Association, is set up. 1911 or 12, the International Tennis Association sets up its rules. The first official test match is played between England and Australia sometime in the 1870s. There are many more such dates. As momentum is gathering for 1914, what happens in 1914? Does anybody know? What's the big world event in 1914? Exactly. So as momentum is gathering for World War I, we already see nations lining up on the sports field. So that is that relationship between sports and nationalism. So in a way, sports is the primary lens to look at nationalism and the other side, citizenship. So in India, of course, I'm going to skip ahead. We don't have time to discuss the other things, but we got the vote with independence, unlike, say, the suffragist movement in the US, the UK, New Zealand, Australia, where women had to lobby to get the vote. So therefore, a history of citizenship of women through the lens of sport.
Shohini, I think a lot of people would be curious about the main title, The Day I Became a Runner, and not the day she became a runner, and so on. So, do you want to say a little bit about the personal aspect of the book? And that was really the genesis of it, and also other reasons why this title was what we went with.
Yeah, I'll begin with why this book in the first place. So I tell the story of post-independent India through the lives of 9 women athletes, and stringing them together is me, a hobby runner, very different from the 9 elite athletes. For me, this was a way of also some form of embodied reporting in a way, because I'm not a sports reporter. I would have loved to be one, but I didn't get the opportunity to be a sports reporter. So to bring in some element of groundedness and authenticity. But it began with my experience of running in public parks in Delhi. Well, public, semi-public, because I would run inside DDA colonies, which have parks in Delhi. So when I started running as a way to cope with grief, I found that once the haze of grief lifted, I realized that I was an anomaly, an unusual sort of a figure. People were looking at me, people were commenting. This was about 2008, 2009. I really don't think that we see a lot more women running. I mean, we do see more registrations in marathons, but I don't really think we see a lot more women running. So for me, this was new because I'm privileged in every which way. I'm upper caste, I'm upper middle class, urbane, Anglophone. As a journalist, I've never had the experience of being unwelcome in any of the, or being questioned about any of the spaces I go into. So this was a first. I could sense that I was not seen as a normal presence. And so I started questioning that why am I not welcome in public space? Why is this, do I lack citizenship here? At the time, I didn't frame it as a citizenship question. I just thought, why am I not welcome here? So then that inquiry then became that why are women uncomfortable in public space? And can we then examine women's citizenship? Of course, we are, I mean, one aspect of citizenship is the vote. Politically, everyone has the vote. We got it. We have universal adult suffrage. But there are many other aspects of citizenship, right? I mean, it's not just political. The political scientist Nija Gopal Jayal explores this beautifully in her Citizenship and Its Discontents. And that's what I'm trying to map here in this book. It's largely around gender, but I've also tried to gently map caste through the book as well.
One of the
Oh, sorry. You said why I. So the I here is the every woman. The title to me comes from this lovely Iranian film called The Day I Became a Woman. And my initial conversation with Swati was, can we have The Day I Became a Woman with a strike through on woman and then runner written above like a scribble, suggesting that struggle with that tussle with identity. I do feel that sports elevates your citizenship, so you become something more. And in fact, if you see the wrestlers protests, I think Sakshi Malik said this, that if this is what's happening with us, imagine what it is for the ordinary woman. So I think there's a definite elevation of citizenship that performing in sport provides. So yeah, sorry, I didn't answer that question. The I is the every woman, me and every citizen.
One of the very crucial aspects of the book, of course, is gender, but alongside that is also sex, because there are several women runners who are part of the book, and also the general conversation around whether it's women runners or women sports persons is also the whole issue of the female sex. Who is a woman? What determines their femaleness? So, would you like to say a bit about that, and the women in the book who sort of are a way to address this question?
Sure. So the book has 3 sections. The first section is broadly the early pioneers that traveled from the 1940s. So from Mary D'Souza to Kamaljit Sandhu to, of course, Usha. So 1940s to broadly, you could say, Usha's legacy into the 2000s, actually. The second section of the book is very different. I traveled from 2006 to 2015. I tell the stories of Shanti Soundarajan, Pinky Pramanik and Duti Chand. All 3 of them questioned about being female enough. Shanti, first athlete in the world to be called out after the era of compulsory sex testing is over. Pinky Pramanik accused by her housemate of rape, so not called out on the sports field. Duti Chand accused of showing high levels of testosterone. But important to remember, naturally occurring testosterone, no trace of dope was found in her urine or blood samples. So testosterone, of course, is a hormone associated with men, but also women also produce it. So intersex individuals, everybody produces testosterone, but testosterone is seen as a male hormone. So brief history of sex testing. Sport has a long and unsettling history of testing for sex. Only women are tested for sex. Men are not. Can you guess why? Why are men not tested for sex? It's a very easy answer. Yeah, go ahead. Just shout it out. Yeah.
Because when already they have sex, like they are already male, so why they will be tested? Everybody knows. Like we are from.
No, I mean, well, I'll just give you the answer. Such a very easy. You want to try, Radhika? Yeah. Shout so that everybody can hear you. No, so it's not that. It's a very easy answer. The sports is only played in 2 categories, male and female. And the anxiety is always that a man will disguise themselves as a woman and compete and win. The opposite anxiety doesn't really hold. Even if a woman disguises herself as a man, there is really no anxiety that they will perform well enough to claim a podium finish. So that is the reason only women are tested for sex. Long history of what were called earlier nude parades. So you walk naked in front of a panel of doctors and gynecologists. So that would be just testing for anatomy. Then there are chromosome tests, bar body tests, which the 1968 Mexico Olympics did. Then the SRY, the sex determining region Y chromosome test, 1996 Atlanta. And you also, the other thing so broadly you test for anatomy, chromosomes, and hormones. So testosterone falls within hormones, but there is a whole plethora of hormones that you're tested for. Sex testing is very complex, very scientific as well, but also very cruel. And it's a very, very sophisticated thing. The language of sex testing keeps getting very sophisticated, keeps changing all the time. So Duti is not tested for gender, as the media calls it wrongly. It should just be called a sex test. She's called out for having too much testosterone. But broadly, my conclusion is that all three athletes are what you'd call intersex individuals. And United Nations figure is that 1.7% of babies are born intersex, which means 2 out of 100 babies are born which is a very large number. And another figure is there's a wonderful judgment popularly known as the Arun Kumar and Shrija judgment by the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court. In that judgment, the judge writes that he quotes intersex rights activist called Gopi Shankar Madurai, who says that there are as many as 38 variables of chromosome, including the clean XX and the clean XY. So that's a whole lot of diversity. And I try to report on that and then analyze what it means sociologically and psychologically to be called out for not being a woman in these three stories. So I feel it was the toughest part of the book, not only because the science is complex, but I also wanted to not make these women, they all think of themselves as women, by the way, and they are. I didn't want them to be victims or seen through a lens of pity. So that was hard to do.
One of the other challenges, I guess, was also getting interviews and talking to a lot of the women and gathering material, basically, because some were not available, some had passed away. There was, of course, a lot of material that existed in the form of interviews and articles and maybe sometimes books. But your challenge was also to look at it with fresh eyes and make fresh connections. So would you like to just give us a glimpse into maybe some of those and very crucial to how the book came together?
Sure. In fact, you did ask me this. A part of your previous question was also this. Right? I'm sorry I didn't answer it. So one challenge was with reporting on writing about the intersex athletes, because they'd all been treated terribly by the media. We should all be thankful that they have not done something drastic. Shanti did try to kill herself. So we're very fortunate that none of that has happened. But they were very suspicious of telling their stories. It took me more than 5 years to convince Shanti Soundarajan to speak with me. It's the last thing I reported for the book. Eventually, she was incredibly open. Duti Chand didn't want to speak and said that there is enough material on me. I've told my story enough time. So what I did with Duti, Pinky Pramanik gave me some interviews and then stopped. Said, I don't want to talk anymore. So with Duti, I had access to, in a way, I think we are lucky in the internet and social media age, because there is a lot of video interviews of Duti Chand. So I thought, let me use this as my material then. Let me look at her videos and interviews and analyze what she has to say, and also put her story out in her words, but also interpret. With Pinky, I had some access, and then she cut off access. So then I traveled to her home and her village on my own. So I looked at, in Pinky's case, again, I looked at news videos to fill in the gaps and news reports, and also what Pinky wrote a very moving essay in Bengali. So that was also very used. So I looked at those materials as well. With Ila Mitra, the only athlete in the book whom, let me see if I can share a photo of hers, but the only athlete in the book who was not alive and whom I couldn't interview, it was, I looked at Bengali, this is Ila Mitra, would have been the first Indian origin woman at the Olympics if World War II had not intervened. I say Indian origin because India was a British territory at the time. So she would have been British Indian by her citizenship. But yeah, so I was monolingual, like many of us upper middle class urban Anglophone Indians can be. I only read and I understood Bengali, of course, and I spoke it. But my COVID project was to read in Bengali again. And then I discovered this whole lot of material on Ila Mitra in Bengali, largely because Bangladesh, or what was earlier East Pakistan, remembers her with a lot of respect and affection. And so, I mean, that resource opened up for me. And her family was very, very forthcoming.
You found that scrapbook with everything
Yeah,
from
yeah.
her sporting life.
Yeah, yeah.
Very carefully preserved over.
Very beautifully preserved. Yeah, yeah. It's Ila Mitra's father was a senior and powerful colonial administration official, I think deputy accountant general, and he Ila was his child from his first marriage, and he was clearly a very, very doting father. He would take Ila to swim. So this is 1930s Calcutta, where she would go, to swimming in, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's College Square, where she would go to swim. Later on in her life, at this club called Anderson Club. So in the 1980s, actually, there is this almost a full spread in a Bengali paper called Ajkal, where this 60-something-year-old woman is wearing a single piece swimming costume. Very unusual, because most of my research on this book has been news archives other than the interviews. Very unusual to see a woman in a swimming costume in pre-liberalization India newspapers. And then, of course, post-liberalization, the Bombay Times sort of picture is very different. So Ila's father had these, she had this, he had kept it, all the newspaper cuttings, magazines. And in fact, right up till the 1980s, I think 80s is when the big shift towards cricket happened. Also, we had the two big wins in 83 and 86, I think, with Benson and Hedges World Series. But newspapers of the time reported on all kinds of sport, equestrian sport, running, hockey, of course, that was the big sport, cricket. So Ila, being a school level athlete, she did actually get in the main newspapers in Bengali and English. She would get cuttings every now and then, and somebody had like very carefully preserved it in a scrapbook. It was lovely to receive. The other thing about Ila Mitra was that I went to the Communist Party of India office, Bhupesh Gupta Bhavan in Calcutta, and she used to be a translator. She's won the Soviet Land Nehru Award as well, which is a pretty serious award for translation. So I went to, because the Communist Party of India and the CPIM, both of them are very serious about bringing out newspapers and journals. So I went to see her writing. It was very interesting that I had notes of, roughly where I think she had published. And when I looked those archives up, exactly those pages, sometimes from the journal, or exactly those editions of the journals had been removed. So it felt like somebody had come before me to look for Ila, found her and taken her home. And in a strange, I should have been very annoyed and I was disappointed, but actually I felt very comforted by the fact that Ella was remembered by somebody and somebody had taken the effort to take her back with them.
At this point, if there are any questions, maybe we could take a couple because I don't think we have much time. Yes, please. This gentleman.
Yes,
Sohini, it so happens that I have read your book.
I know you told me so.
Yes, yes. And very interesting book, and the way you have been able to integrate your personal story into the larger story of women athletes and runners. is
Yeah.
very interesting. Not only that, another thing I found interesting was the way in which you bring in references from literature. I mean, Murakami's book is mentioned, and the Iranian film that you talked about. Now, I have one just, I was intrigued by one thing. I mean, throughout your book, you have taken an ideological line, a feminist angle, and you have looked at citizenship and nationalism. But when you write about P.T. Usha, you also show her bias against women, especially the Nirbhaya episode. You have written about the Nirbhaya episode, and P.T. Usha doesn't seem very enthusiastic about women protesting, and So, how did you square your sympathies with Usha with her anti-women, anti-feminist biases?
Shall I? I think maybe I should just read because I have addressed this, and I think let me just read one section. In a way, it was the opposite of what I had thought or hoped. Usha trained young women because they are more obedient than men, more disciplined, better medal prospects. Women are a better return on investment. The only independence she mentioned was financial, material benefits over the independence of the mind, liberation, conviction. There is a lot to be said for this kind of thinking, of course. The Indian government supports sportspersons by offering them jobs, and the central attraction for Indians in playing a sport is the government job, well paid, secure, and offering several benefits. But the material realities are not the reason we love sport. We love it for the opposite, actually. The immaterial, unquantifiable things. The beauty, the grit, the improbable stories. Like the young woman who ate a meal of rice with smidges of mango pickle before she nearly won an Olympic medal. Who stayed awake that night, not sad at her loss, but thrilled at the journey. We love it for the bloody mindedness, for the sheer physical courage, for the woman who wanted to make a comeback for herself alone after her retirement when she was 20 kg overweight, when her mentor told her she should stay home and look after her son. We hear these stories and we build up the person in our heads. We take courage from them. We construct our own experiences around them. We borrow from the resilience they narrate. We cast them in the light we want to see them in. Then, when we see that the person is not the force we imagined, it diminishes us a bit. We doubt our judgment. We love with less love. We put some distance between us and the world. So I think I put some distance between me and Usha.
I recently played international chess match at SOA. Also played 2 nationals, and also I have seen many international players are coming, but they are not tested. Like whatever you are saying, I think they will be tested in future. They are the players, but I thought ki Dutijan ji tested that time. Why they are not testing peoples? So they need to be tested. So I thought I will go for some to CM or PM or some other peoples to go for whenever they will go for some international match, or they will people. So they think they are coming some randomly. I thought why they are coming randomly here and doing some matches and all. When I was in TCS, I have seen peoples from foreign. They're coming to us and they're just shaking hands with me. But I don't know why they are coming to this place frequently. This is not. This is India. We are India, and since 75 years we are already in independence. So British Raj has already gone. So you don't come here. We don't think you people will be needed in future. So that's the thing I am saying. So they are also be tested. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't think there was a question there, but thank you for your intervention. Thanks everyone for being here and listening to us. And copies of the book are available at the bookstore. And Shoini, I'm sure, would be very, very happy to sign them. Thank you.
Please have a huge round of applause.
Thank you, Swati.
So, for the next session, we have Empowering Verses, Echoes of Feminism in Odia Poetry. So, please help me to welcome Renu Mahapatra, Swapna Mishra, Runu Mahapatra, Pritidhara Samal, Subhashri Lenka, Pratiksha Jaina, Mukul Mishra, Bhaswati Basu, along with the moderator, Subhashri Shubhasmita Mishra. Please have a huge round of applause for all the speakers and the moderator.